house is interested in buying a house but hasn't found a halal option. So inshallah, we're here. I'm with Guidance Residential. My name is Zishan Qadri. I'm the regional manager for New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And I have Mr. Wissam Kuday with me. He's our account executive, mashallah. So he's from the community, alhamdulillah. So we're going to present Guidance Residential. We're going to be here to answer any questions, comments, concerns you have about Islamic financing and guidance in particular. I'm sure each and every one of you have heard any, misconceptions. So I want to make sure that today I am here to answer those misconceptions and answer your questions clearly, so you feel once you leave here today that you have a clear understanding of where guidance stands and why we consider ourselves to be best from Islamic compliance perspective, inshallah. So we're almost ready. Give us just a few more minutes, inshallah. Thank you. We're ready? Okay. You want to... So the goal of this presentation, just to give you a quick idea, is I'm going to present about Guidance Residential for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'm going to leave a good 30 to 45 minutes to answer your direct questions, any misconceptions you've heard. So I want you to feel freely, ask those tough questions which you might have heard, misconceptions you might have heard, so I can answer those for you. And again, we are not scholars. We are going to reference scholars and reference teams.
Guys, I just ask, if you're in the main prayer hall, please keep it down. Try not to talk. We'll give Brother Zishan your full attendance. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah feekum.
Oh yeah. Okay. Bismillah, let's get started. So, interestingly enough, I'm going to talk to you about what Islam specifically says about riba. And we're going to take a ayah from the Quran, from Surah Al-Baqarah, where specifically it mentions in the Quran that those who take unlawful interest will stand before God on the day of judgment as those whose minds have been corrupted by the influence of Satan. They say that commerce is just like interest, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made commerce lawful and forbidden interest. وَحَلَّ اللَّهُ بَيَّ وَحَرَّمَهُ الرِّبَا. The last line is very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made commerce, business transactions lawful, and has made riba, money on money, making money on top of money, as haram. In the same ayah, same surah, as Allah says, O you who believe, fear Allah and give up what remains of your demands for riba, for ye indeed believers. If you do not, take notice of war from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. But if you turn back, you shall have your capital sums. Deal not unjustly, and you shall not be dealt with unjustly. So the Quran is very explicit about the unlawfulness of riba and what that entails, that you are going to war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this concept of riba, by the way, is not just a Islamic point that it's haram in Islam. It is actually also the same concept in other Abrahamic faiths, like Christianity, like Judaism. So in Deuteronomy it says, do not charge your brother interest, whether on money or food or anything else that may earn interest. So this is a concept that is not only in the Quran, but also in the Bible and the Torah. Same information is passed down from the founding fathers of America. So you'll see that there is a understanding that riba and interest have a huge impact on the society that we live in, right? It ends up having more wealth going into the rich, and it eliminates the wealth or the opportunities available to the poor. So this is the same concept that the founding fathers mentioned, which one of them said there are two ways to conquer a nation and enslave a nation. One is through a sword, and the other is through debt. And I'm from Pakistan. Most of us are from, a Middle Eastern country or from the Asian countries. The amount of debt our countries are in and unable to make their own decisions, you can tell that has an impact on the livelihood of the countries and on the decision making and the freedom of those countries. So Guidance Residential, who we are. So the mission started in 1999, And it took 3 years and 18 law firms, in addition to our team of scholars, to come up with this program. Our owners, our Capital Guidance, which we'll talk about in a moment, is a conglomerate from the Middle East. That's where our funding comes from. We are not a bank. We're not owned by a bank. We have, we work and we operate as an investment opportunity, investment company. So we are launched in 2002 after 3 years of work with the 18 law firms and with our team of scholars to come up with an Islamically compliant contract. The key of our contract is to never compromise on the Islamic compliance of the contract while following the rules and requirements of the law of the land, like government regulations, government requirements as far as documentation, but at the same time, not to compromise on the Islamic compliance of our contract. That is the key. And we've won multiple awards in the process, and we've been awarded multiple times. One of the main reasons, if you know, in 2008 through 2012, there was a huge mortgage crisis in the US, which was, one of the main reasons for that was mortgage companies, like traditional banks who deal in riba, they were giving out mortgages to everyone and every single person they met, right? They wanted a primary home, second home, vacation home, a 2-month home, whatever. They were giving out mortgages to everyone. Because they were dealing in riba, they were dealing in a borrowing transaction. But when you have a company like Guidance Residential, and I'll talk about our program, which is a partnership, then the mortgage company is involved in the best interest of the individual. And so in 2018, we also won multiple awards, and today we're in 34 states. So any of the major states in the US where there is a sizable Muslim population, we are licensed in those states, alhamdulillah. So this is the structure I was talking about from Guidance Residential. Our owners are Capital Guidance. You can look them up online. They're a conglomerate from the Middle East. That's where we get our money from. Capital Guidance, interesting fact about them. If you look at, you might have heard of the hotel, Shaza Hotel in Makkah and Medina. They're the owners of that Shaza Hotel. So Capital Guidance is a real estate investment firm that has investments around the world, has multiple investment properties, including in the US. Our headquarters in the US is in Virginia. So they are the owners of Guidance Residential. That's where our initial funding comes from. And then within Guidance Residential, obviously, we have multiple other Guidance Financial Group, Capital Guidance, and Guidance Residential itself for the home financing. So Capital Guidance, this is the map of this, our parent organization. They're in 27 countries, primarily in the Middle East. They have investments in Africa, in Asia, and a lot of investments, obviously, in the US as well, including, I think, in DC, they're doing a huge project. I can't remember the name, but it's a large project that they're doing in DC as well. So Guidance Financial Group is another side business that Capital Guidance has, which is specializing in home financing, other investment opportunities in the US. So today, we are now licensed in 34 states. So anywhere there is a Muslim sizable population, we are licensed in those states, including New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, obviously, then Texas, Florida, California. So we're not, the only states that we're really not in are, like Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, because there's not a sizable Muslim population there. These are, again, some of the different awards that I was talking about that Guidance has won for our work in the community, work with mortgage companies, including Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which I'm sure a question will come up about them, so I'm happy to answer that, inshallah. This is the most important slide of tonight. This is our Sharia board, who has been with our program since inception. So the head of our Sharia board is Mufti Taqi Usmani, who's very well known in Islamic finance. He's written multiple books in Islamic finance. He's been with our program since the inception. In fact, in November of 2020, we did a webinar on video. He came on video explaining our program from an Islamic compliance perspective, why this is considered Islamically compliant contract. He's been with us since 1999, like I mentioned. In addition, we have Sheikh Yusuf Talal de Lorenzo, who's on our Sharia board as well. He, again, has been doing multiple webinars and seminars. In fact, on January 30th, Sheikh Mainul Quda from Amja Amja is not affiliated with Guidance, is doing a Islamic financing workshop, which is specifically for community leaders and shuyukh and for imams. And where he talks about how does Islamic financing work in the US and why they have recommended Guidance from Islamic compliance perspective, which is Amja, which I'll talk about in a moment as well. Next. So before I go to the next, So, yeah, no, Amja resolution. No, next. After this. After. Yep, there we go. Amja. Amja is a American Muslims Jurists of America, Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, and they have a team of scholars on their Sharia board. They are not affiliated with Guidance, including they have Sheikh Aman al-Quda on their Sharia board, they have Sheikh Khatim al-Hajj on their Sharia board, and they evaluated all Islamic mortgage companies in the US from an Islamic compliance perspective. Is this Islamically compliant? Where are the deficiencies? What are the issues? And so they gave Guidance the #1 rating. And they said that our program is sound in general. So we have alhamdulillah, the proud, endorsement from Amja. You're able to reach out to them, get their feedback regarding Guidance residential specifically, and why they consider us from Islamic compliance perspective as the best option available. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper now into, I'll give you a little history of Guidance, who we are, where we come from, who our ownership is, and you have all this information available online as well. But now we're going to go a little bit deeper into the program, right? So the first question is, what is riba? What is the definition of riba? Riba is interest as profit, meaning if you give someone money and are expecting additional money in return, that is riba. That is the basic definition of riba. So you cannot make money on money. You can always make investment. You can always do buy and sell. So what is permissible is making a transaction, a trade, buy and sell, and then making a profit. Absolutely fine Islamically. That's commerce. Again, we go back to the ayah from the Quran. وَحَلَّ بَيَّ وَحَرَّمْهُ الرِّبَى. Business, commerce has been made halal. Riba has been made haram. So when you make money, when you give someone money and you expect more in return, that is not allowed Islamically. However, if you make a business transaction with the individual, and in a business transaction, keep in mind, there can always be a profit and a loss. So each party involved has to share some level of risk. That is the key component of a commerce transaction. That is allowed Islamically. You can make a profit that way. But you cannot give someone money and then expect more in return. In Islamic financing, there are multiple different types. One is called a murabaha, which is a purchase and resale. I buy something for $100 and I sell it for $120. That's a profit murabaha contract. Another one is called ijara. It's a lease. You're leasing the product, or similar to rent, of a product. And the third one is called a musharaka, which is the Guidance's program, the model that we use, which is a partnership. You're buying the house together with Guidance. And within musharaka, there are different types of musharaka transactions. One is a business venture. You are doing a business transaction together and you have a partnership with someone in it. And second is an asset ownership, shirkatul milk, where you are similar to a silent partner. You have an investment in this business or in this opportunity, but you're not related to the day-to-day activities of the transaction. So you are making an investment in the property, and you are either you are in the business venture directly involved, or you have similar to a silent partnership, silent partner and an investor in a product, or a halal product, obviously. So musharaka means that you are going into a partnership with Guidance to buy the house. Together we are buying the house. And again, going back to my definition of commerce and a business transaction, when you borrow money from someone, they are giving away all the risk to you. Whether you make that investment and you lose money, you cannot come back and say, hey, I lost the money, I can't give it back to you. They'll say, hey, no, I don't care what investment you made. But in a business transaction, you have a concept of loss sharing. So Guidance shares the loss in the property with the homeowner in certain scenarios, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So we have a shared risk component in it. Second more very important piece that I want to mention is non-recourse commitment. Our partnership is limited to this property alone, nothing else. So for example, if you borrow money from a bank and you are unable to make the payments back, they have a right, because you borrowed this money, they have a right to recoup their investment through your other assets. Maybe you have some money in a bank account, through wages and garnishments, to tax refund money. You have other properties, so they can put a lien on your other properties to collect their initial investment. However, in a business transaction, if I make a business investment with you on a particular property or a business, I understand that my risk and my profit is limited to this property alone or this business opportunity alone. I do not, through the Musharaka guidance, does not have a right to go after your other assets, income, properties to collect our share because we have a limited partnership with you on this property alone. So this is a very key component of a Musharaka contract. That's good. Continue. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, and I'm sure this question will come up, how is this different than a traditional bank, right? And this question always comes up. And one of the most important things that we have to understand is that guidance, like I mentioned earlier, we do not compromise on the Islamic compliance. However, we do follow the requirements and the guidelines set by the US and the law of the land, whatever requirements they have, without compromising on our faith and our Islamic compliance. So, in the end, obviously the ownership will transfer to you. You will have a down payment, so you will have a monthly mortgage payment. So all of those concepts will be exactly the same. But there are two main differences that are specifically related to Islamic compliance. Because everything else, all those other requirements, have no impact on the Islamic compliance of the product. So what are those two differences? So number one, whenever you go to a bank for a car loan, credit card loan, auto loan, a mortgage, whatever that may be, you sign a document called a promissory note. If you look in your documents, you'll see that there's a promissory note whenever you've opened a credit card or a car loan or any borrowing transaction. The promissory note specifically states that you are borrowing money from the bank and are going to pay interest on it for the car or the house, okay, which is not allowed Islamically. What guidance has done is we do not have a promissory note. We have an Islamically compliant musharaka contract, the partnership contract I was referring to. So instead of signing a promissory note at closing, you are signing an Islamically compliant musharaka contract at closing. Okay, so our agreement is different from day one. Our agreement is no longer a borrowing contract or a borrowing and a lending transaction. Our agreement is a partnership. That's the first thing. Second is, when you go into a borrowing contract, you obviously take on all the risk. But when you go into a business transaction, you understand that each party involved has to share some level of risk. Obviously, the intention in any business transaction is to make a profit. But there is a level of risk that each party has to take on in a business transaction, in a musharaka contract. So, how do you make money as a homeowner? So you buy the house for, let's say, for example, $100,000. And you decide you want to sell it for $150,000. That 50K profit, that's yours. You buy the house, I'll give you a few other examples. You buy the house for $100,000. You decide you want to sell it to your cousin for $80,000. The loss is yours. We're not going to share that with you. However, we will share the loss in the property with you in case of foreclosure, natural disaster, and eminent domain. In these scenarios, we will share the loss in the property with you, and our recourse is limited to this property alone. We cannot come after your other assets, income, properties, bank account balance to collect any losses. We have a limited partnership with you on this property alone, and we're sharing the loss in case of foreclosure, natural disaster, and eminent domain. Now, how are we making a profit? We have a profit rate, which is similar to the market rate. That's how we make money. So on a monthly basis, for example, the house value is $100,000, You make a down payment of 5%, and we provide 95% of the funds. When you make your payment, we will calculate a monthly mortgage payment. A portion of this payment is our profit because we have ownership in this property and you are living in this property. So it's similar to a utilization fee on this property. In addition, you are paying us an additional amount to buy equity from us. So every single month, your ownership keeps increasing and ours decreases until you become complete owner of the property. Now, this concept of ownership increasing and our shares decreasing is exactly the same as the amortization as a traditional bank. Okay? The amount of money that will exchange hands might end up being exactly the same. The process might end up being exactly the same. The documentation, credit check, income check, down payment, all those concepts might end up being exactly the same. However, again, those two things are different. The Islamically compliant contract, the agreement you have with guidance and yourself is an Islamically compliant contract, musharaka contract. You're not a borrower with us. And number two, we are sharing the loss in the property with you through an LLC in this property in case of foreclosure, natural disaster, imminent domain. We will have a joint question and answer session shortly. Nope. So once you are, the process in the home buying, just to give you a quick recap, is the first step is to talk to us about getting pre-approved. How much financing are you approved for? So myself, with Sam, will be able to assist you with that, to tell you how much you can get approved for. After that, we'll be happy to connect you with an agent that we work with in the market to help you find a home in that price range, in that area, and move forward with the process. Typical process for a pre-approval is within 24 to 48 hours, depending on your documentation, your submission of your documentation. And then once you've found a home, it takes approximately 30 days for us to do the closing. Now, during that process, there are certain requirements, right? There are down payment requirements, credit requirements, employment requirements. Those requirements are similar to traditional banks that, a traditional bank might have. But again, the key component are the difference, the Islamic compliant contract and the sharing of loss in certain scenarios. So that gives you a quick idea about guidance, who we are, how we operate, how this makes it Islamically compliant. I want to open the floor to questions, comments, misconceptions you might have heard. I'm happy to answer those for you. Bismillah. Sure. Absolutely. So let's start with a traditional bank first. So in a traditional bank, if you're unable to make your payments, you go into foreclosure, right? So you go through the short sale process, a foreclosure process, and you go into foreclosure. Now, with a traditional bank, let's say the mortgage balance is $500,000 on the house. And in foreclosure, the house sells for $300,000. So there's a $200K loss for the bank. What the bank will do is look at your other assets. Maybe you have money in the bank account. Maybe you have another property. I'm giving you an example of what a bank does. This is what a bank does. So a bank will look at, hey, does he have any money in the bank account? Does he have any wages through which we can collect our losses? Can we put a lien on his other properties, other assets, his bank accounts, to collect that money? Because you borrowed it from them. But with guidance residential, what will happen is, similar scenario, God forbid an individual goes into foreclosure and is unable to make payments. First of all, we do have multiple programs where our goal is to obviously keep the homeowner in the house. So we have multiple programs where we can pause payments, restructure payments. If, let's say, all options have been exhausted, then yes, you will go into foreclosure. Now, same example, let's say the balance on the mortgage is $500,000, and the house in foreclosure sells for $300,000. We will take the full $300,000, but this $200K loss, we will take the loss. We will not come after your assets, income, bank statements, other properties to collect our losses because we have a limited partnership on this property alone. So theoretically, you could have $100,000 sitting in a bank account and we could not go after that money because our limited partnership in this property alone. And our losses and our recovery of losses is limited to this property alone.
What I know about the banks, they guarantee this thing before they give me the loan.
No, because even if you look back in 2008 to 2012, they gave mortgages to people with 5%. I mean, even now you can get a mortgage for 5% with guidance or any traditional bank. And, God forbid, there is a scenario like 2008, 2012, there are losses. Banks took losses. They were bailed out because of it. So,
What is the percentage of your loss sharing?
percentage of loss, okay. So I mentioned three scenarios where we will share the loss in the property: foreclosure, natural disaster, and eminent domain. So in foreclosure, our loss is limited to the difference between the mortgage balance and the sale price. So for example, I'll give you an example on each. Foreclosure, if the house sells, if the mortgage balance in foreclosure is 500,000 and the house sells for 450, well, our loss is 50,000.
Whole 50,000 loss will be borne by you.
Correct. We will take the full 450 and we'll take the 50K loss.
Percentage is always the same as, or it is different in the contract. Like you contract with somebody, so you are loss sharing with different percentage, but you are
No, no.
making agreement with somebody else.
No, no, no. Our contract is the same for every single individual. From
And it will be written in the agreement.
Yes, I have a copy of the sample contract. We have a sign-up sheet. If you can sign up, I can give you a copy of our sample contract and show you exactly where it states.
And what is the meaning of declining balance?
Declining balance ownership, musharka. So similar to the amortization. So we are partners in this property. Value of the house is 100,000. Your ownership is 5%, your down payment 5%. Ours is 95%. Every month you're making a payment, which a portion is our profit and a portion is your ownership. So your ownership is increasing, ours is decreasing. That's the declining balance. Yeah. Two things, sorry. Just to add on your question, because you mentioned how do we percentage of sharing of loss. So foreclosure, I mentioned, it is limited to the loss, the difference between the the mortgage balance and the sale price of the house. That's our loss. So it varies, obviously. In case of natural disaster, now natural disaster is not covered by your standard home insurance policy. So you're welcome to look up your home insurance policy, the one who are homeowners. Your natural disaster does not cover it. Your home insurance policy will cover you from fire damage, slip and fall, liability, those type of issues. But it does not cover natural disaster. So if you remember 2012, there was Sandy that hit the coast. So in that case, obviously, FEMA came in and covered a lot of losses for most homeowners, but not for everyone and not all of it. Okay? So in that scenario, let's say our ownership at the time of incidence is 70%, and you are 30% owner. That loss, we will share 70%, and you will take a 30% loss based on ownership at the time of incidence. That is in case of natural disaster. Similarly, in eminent domain. Eminent domain means that the government comes and says, okay, we need to buy some of your front lawn because we need to run a water line or electrical line through this land. So we'll give you $2,000 for it, and they will make you do it. And even though the land might be worth $20,000. So again, based on our ownership at the time of incidence, we will share the loss in the property with you. So if we own 80% or we own 20%, we will share 20% of the loss in those scenarios. Yes.
In one part of your presentation, you said for pre-approval, credit is required.
Correct.
And as you know, credit is built by giving interest.
Correct. In some cases.
And that's, as far as I know, it's built
No.
to a great extent, yes. But how do you, like, if someone owns already, in interest, or you have to get into interest in order to get out of interest?
Sure, that's a good question. So there's some misconception. Again, I'm not a credit expert, but I'll give you some feedback about this. Number one, there's a misconception that you have to pay interest to build credit. That's not true. Let's say you were leasing a car, your credit score will go up. Let's say you're renting. By the way, whoever's a renter here, if you are renting, you are able to report your rent payments, that you made your payments on time, to credit bureaus, and that will improve your credit score. So you have multiple options and availability of options to improve your credit score, right?
Get a credit card itself, like the promissory that you talked about before.
Is signed.
Getting a credit card,
Yes,
you're signing that promissory, which is not
correct,
necessary.
for opening a credit card.
Yeah, so
But I'm saying, credit report and credit scores are not limited to credit cards or borrowing transactions. If you want to build your credit score without signing a credit card, you can. If you want to build your credit score without signing any credit card, any auto loan, you can do it by signing auto lease. You can, even if you don't want to lease, you can rent. Your rent payments can improve your credit score. So there are ways to improve your credit score without actually borrowing money from the bank or paying interest on it. Now, I think that's an easy answer that I gave, obviously. Now, is credit scores requirement? These are requirements that do not impact the Islamic compliance of this contract. Right? The Islamic compliance of the contract is maintained by the agreement you sign with guidance, in addition by sharing of loss in the contract. Other requirements like credit, down payment, employment history, those do not, again, impact the Islamic compliance of the contract. So how an individual builds his credit score, that's his individual's decision and his discretion. So you can build credit in other ways. And in fact, there are, by the way, some ways where even if you do not have any credit score, you're able to get approved for guidance. Yes, wa alaikum salam. Live example.
You've been in business for a long time, right?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So what we need to do is to have a live example based on the real life, which is approximately the houses that we can afford around Jersey. We're talking about $300,000-$400,000. Three to four.
Minimum.
400.
Correct, right now. Yes.
So what I want to ask you to do, it is to take from point zero until we reach the monthly payment. And we calculate that as a percentage, if we're going to do it like on, I don't know if you guys do it on 15 years.
We do.
Every year.
Yep.
So we can be aware where we're standing with, you know what I mean? Like you, what I understand from all that you said, it is you tell us we're going to be a partnership with you, which is you're going to come as a worker with the 5% out of the $300,000 or $400,000.
Sure.
So you're going to come up with the $20,000 as a down payment. That's
Sure.
on the $400,000.
Right.
So this $400,000, we're going to take the mortgage. I'm going to call it mortgage on a 30 years. You're going to say that out of the 400 is going to be 380. You guys going to pay.
Correct.
Now, within 30 years, how much you want me
To pay.
you back?
Got it.
The $380,000.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
380 plus our profit.
Of course. I mean,
Right.
how much? That's what
Okay.
How much is the profit of
So,
the house?
yeah.
For the 380,000. So I'm gonna end up paying on that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Understood. So we can run the calculation. We have an amortization schedule, but doing it, we would have to do it individually. Because for each, depending on your credit, your down payment, the sale price of the house, I can provide an example of the amount of payments. But however,
Put the house at 100,000, which is not real, but 100,000 within 15 years mortgage. With the profit, how much I'm gonna end up paying?
okay, sure. So what I'll do is I'll answer some other questions, and Wissam, if you can work on an amortization calculation, and we can pull that up for you guys. Sorry, yes, please.
Yeah, you guys do fixed rate and
Correct.
Variable rate.
No, we only do fixed. We only have
Different in Islam.
Islamically.
You have variable or
No. So the Sharia boards, again, I'm not a scholar, but I can talk to you about our Sharia board and Amja. Amja and our Sharia boards have not had any issues with fixed options or variable options. They're not concerned. The concern is always from a Sharia board is the agreement. What are you agreeing on? What are you agreeing on? Now, one of the questions, and this has been easy, alhamdulillah, a lot of easy questions so far. So one of the questions we always get is, and I'll ask it for you guys, is why do you have a profit rate which is similar to the bank charges? You have 7%, they have 7%. Amount of money is going out. Why is it? Why is yours based on this pricing model? Right? This is the money. And actually, one of the brothers on Jummah when I was here asked me this as well. Look, the pricing of a product does not define Islamic compliance. If you have two products, one is $1,000, another one is $1,000, which one is halal? There's no way to know unless you understand what are the components of each product. How Islamic finance defines it is what is made of. The price of a product does not define Islamic compliance. So having the pricing model based on the similar model, similar structure, having similar requirements, credit, down payment, those do not impact the Islamic compliance of the product. They do not have an impact on the Islamic compliance of the product. What impacts Islamic compliance is the agreement you have with the mortgage company, with bank, or whoever, right? What is the agreement you're signing? Are you signing an Islamically compliant contract, or is it non-Islamic? Along with that Islamic compliant contract, are those requirements that are there in an Islamic compliant contract, are they met? You know, a lot of times people say, oh, you just changed the word interest and made it, crossed it out and put profit, and now it's halal. No, because changing the word is not the only thing that's happening. Along with that change from interest to profit, what's happening is the sharing of loss. This loss sharing is what makes Islamic compliant. I'll tell you one more thing. Amja, we talked about Amja, Sheikh Ma'an al-Quda, and Sheikh Hatim on their Sharia boards. One of the main reasons they give guidance to #1 rating from Islamic compliance perspective is, number one, we're not a bank. Every single other Islamic mortgage company that you hear of in the market today are a subsidiary of a bank. Another who is owned by a bank, and they've opened an Islamic financing window. Guidance does not operate like that. We are not a bank, number one. Number two, because we're not a bank, by the way, the role of a bank in the US is simple. It's lend money and make money on interest. Bank's job is not to be a partner with you in a property or a business transaction. Bank's job is to lend money and make money. So us, not being a bank, we operate as an investment firm. We are able to partner with individuals on a property. And because of this partnership, we are able to share the loss in the property with the homeowners through the LLC that we always mentioning.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I just want to also mention, Zishan said that we are a co-ownership program. So we create an LLC when you buy your house. One thing when you get to the closing table is they're going to be like, even attorneys get surprised. What is this? It's different than the promissory note that you're used to because it's a Sharia compliant contract you're signing. Oh, for you to hear me better. So the Sharia compliant contract is the main thing. And there's an LLC created. That's how we hold the liability. When you create, if you have a business, if you created a partnership with anybody you know, the way you partner with them is not by saying, yeah, it is, I'm just going to be your partner. You don't trust their word. There's an LLC factor. So you create that LLC and he's your partner. That's how we share the liability also. That's how we share the risks, is we are your partner and it's a co-ownership program. That's another thing. To his point, yes, the amortization table here is ready. Like on $120,000 in 15 years, there's a $25,000 profit, which is normal. Why? Because in any co-ownership, or if you buy a house with your friend and you guys rent it out, whatever you want to use it.
What is the percentage of your profit?
I put here 475. You can add more. If it increases, it increases the profit. It depends on the profit. The profit is not something I could tell you what's your profit rate today. The profit, like he mentioned, it depends on a lot of factors. And how is the market today? What's the value of, the houses today? What is your credit score? Yeah.
You tell me it is a fixed profit that it is what you call بيع بالأجل. That this
شراكة العقد. شراكة.
$100,000 right now, I'm going to give it to you within 15 years with $115,000. That's
No, not exactly like that. If you continue to make your payments in 15 years, it is. However, if you make other payments and recast, you lower the amount you pay. You lower the amount of profit that we earn on a monthly basis. Let's say you add 50,000 and you recast. You will lower a lot your monthly payment and the amount of profit that we make. So there are other things you could do to own more, to increase your share of the property. If you do,
They didn't make it for like a month, 3, 4. So like how like you can just like you can take the loss and let's say that the value of the house as we see is increasing and I couldn't
Can we answer?
I
Sure.
couldn't make my payment for like 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
You're just gonna take the house out of me and you tell me you lost the
Zishan will answer that.
No, Bismillah. Look, like I said, I want to be very clear. I want you guys to please ask like these direct questions. I really look. The goal here is to make sure that you leave with a good understanding of Islamic finance. If you need documentation after this, please feel free. So a couple of things you mentioned, right? There were different things. Number one is our profit rate. Profit rate differs daily. Okay, so based on the market. So today's like 2 years ago, the profit rate was 3%. Okay. Today in the market, the profit rate is about 6.375 for 30 years.
but that's fixed.
Then it's fixed. Once you lock, it's fixed for the term of the contract. Now, obviously, if the profit rate in the market goes down, we have options called refinance, which is, again, traditional mortgage companies also have this, refinance to go to a lower profit rate. You asked about missing payments. Again, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but similarly, if you are unable to make your payments due to a life event, we have multiple programs to ensure that we restructure the program.
Missing the payment with increasing the value of the house, not with decreasing the value of the house.
Increasing the value of the house.
Yeah,
Well, the value of the house no longer matters. You've already bought the house.
I didn't buy the house. I didn't pay you. I didn't pay you money until now.
No, you've made an investment. The house has been owned, right? Like we have a partnership now. The property is between you and Guidance now.
So are we
So-
gonna, let's say that
I think I get.
together for $100,000,
I think I get your point.
and then after 2 years, I'm not gonna be able to make the payment that which is like 5,000.
Or let's say you sell the house. Or let's say you decide to sell the house.
I decide to sell the house.
Perfect. Right. Let me give you examples on that. So you decide to buy the house today for 500,000. 6 months later, a year later, the values have increased in the market. You say, okay, I'm going to sell the house. You sell it for 700,000. We will ask for our mortgage balance only, the balance. So let's say the house was 500,000 today. You got a mortgage of 400,000 and you bid a $100,000 down payment. And the house later sells for 700. You will give us the 400 and the rest is your profit. Okay? Similarly, you buy the house today for 500, you have a mortgage for 400, and you decide you want to sell it to your cousin for 450. We will ask for the 400, the rest is your profit. The rest is your kind of loss actually in that case. Why? We do not share the profit and loss based on your decision to sell the house. Who decided to sell the house? You did. Who decided when to sell it? Who to sell it to? How much to sell it for? All those decisions were made by the homeowner. So the profit and loss in that scenario is dealt with by the homeowner. Where are we sharing the profit and loss? In case of foreclosure, natural disaster, imminent domain, things out of your control. You are being forced into foreclosure because you weren't able to make your payments. In that case, we're sharing the loss. But if you decide to sell a profit for a loss, you are sharing that loss. Stop. Just,
When regular bank you go to foreclosure, the bank will sell it just to remove whatever they what has mortgage in. They don't care about it. And that's the way it's done. What's in your case? Now we have a partnership as we call it. We bought $1 million house. I bought 250. You bought 500. You bought 750. Then we decided to sell it. And who decided the price at that moment?
the market. So I'll explain.
So let's assume I'm gonna say I wanna sell it for $1 million, and you say you wanna sell it for 800,000 because you wanna recoup your 750.
No.
How long is it gonna take?
No. Let me explain.
The bank doesn't wait.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Okay. My question is, who decide at that moment? You're gonna go by market and whoever business
Understood.
comes in, and how long you willing to wait?
Okay, sure. So what you have to understand, and again, this is not just related to guidance, but this is related to all mortgage industry. Foreclosure is the last step in this process. Before you've gotten to foreclosure, you have exhausted multiple options in the process. First was, and again, this is some are related to only guidance, so I'll just talk about everything, but hey, can we restructure the contract? If you had only 20 years left, can we go back to a 30-year, lower your monthly payment for you? Can you make that payment? You say no. Months go by, you still are not able to make your payments. Then you go into what's called a short sale. Short sale means you are forced to sell the house. You sell it. You get an agent, or you put it on the market. You decide how much you want to sell it for, to who to sell it to. We are just requiring that, hey, when you find a buyer, you have to contact us in this particular case, in a short sale, that, hey, is the foreclosure balance, the mortgage balance being met, not met? Is it close to the market value or not? So the short sale requirement becomes that you have to include us in the decision of selling the house, even though it's your decision, okay? Foreclosure means you have exhausted all your options and you try to even sell it and it still didn't sell, then it's going to sell in the market value. How does the market value get decided? It gets after that, and this process, to get to foreclosure has taken months, sometimes even a year, year and a half. After that, highest bidder.
The pre-approval process,
Sorry.
is it really close to the bottom of that?
Yes, we do have a credit check fee, $29.50, and then we require all your documentation. A pre-approval means you have been vetted financially, and currently, any seller's agent, listing agent is going to require a pre-approval. They want to make sure that you have been vetted financially, you're approved for financing, and are able to proceed. So yes, but it's 24 hours, 48 hours, we can get that.
One,
Process of finding a house and you want to see how much you're qualifying to get.
Yep, absolutely.
you can contact us and we will get you all the information.
Yes, sir.
I just want to mention before, because I know it's getting late for some, Guidance had a struggle road to get to where they are today. Like we started in 1999. We were not on board back then, but they had a struggle. They were not in 34 states. It took them a lot of delegation and massive amount of money to spend to be able to enforce adding a Islamic compliant contract to be recognized, by large companies and accepted, the way it is today. There's some companies that, out there, like I said, our way is that we have an LLC, we have a partnership, and there's a proof of how we do partnership. And lastly, I want to say is that when you're seeking Sharia compliant, what matters the most is your intention and your niyyah. That's more than anything is what's important. And when it comes to the religious, to the fatwas and to the Sharia compliant parts of it, no matter how we answer, me and him always have our fear of answering too much, but we would always refer you, like he said, AMJA, the American Muslim Association's eligible and qualified to do fatwa, and you can refer to them, Dr. Ma'an Qudat, and they're doing imam training right now. A lot of massages have participated. Alhamdulillah, we are the #1 recommended by them. A lot of people ask me, about differences. There are so many differences, but I just don't want to take a lot of everybody's time. We will be here to answer any questions. I'll give it back to Zishan, but if you want, please don't forget to write your name. There's a sheet there, and we will contact you, or you can contact us. Our cards are over there.
Just to add one thing that he mentioned, guidance is struggle. Guidance, like I mentioned, is the only one company that is Muslim owned, and we're not a bank. So we paved the way. We were the first Islamic compliant contract that was established in the US. Interesting facts I'll mention. The way it came into existence is that when I talked about those 18 law firms in the 1999 to 2002 period, 3 years that it took to establish and come up with this contract, they were able to literally present this, that, hey, this product is specifically for a minority population in the US because it doesn't conform exactly to a traditional mortgage company. It is different. And so we had to go through that legal struggle to be able to establish this. Guidance is the #1 business that is supporting Muslim communities. Biggest funder for business funder, for ICNA convention, mass convention, any of the Muslim conventions that you see, because we are from the community. We are Muslims. Our ownership is Muslim. Our CEO is Muslim. But you're welcome to ask the other companies about this. I have this brother, and then you after. Yeah, inshallah. Bismillah. Please, please.
Very simple. I am unfortunate. I don't have $100,000 to buy a house.
Yes.
I can squeeze 5%.
Mhm.
I got. There's two devils. One called the bank, and called you.
Mhm.
The only difference I see is you are a less devil than the man. That's basically it. And let's not go around saying fancy words and all. I mean, you know, 1 + 2 is 3. There's no 4. So basically, you are a less devil than the bank. Less devil. I mean, be honest with, I mean, you know, people, listen, this world is built on using people. And the banks are the worst enemy. And you come, basically,
Less.
That's basically it.
So okay. So look, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Look, brother, I am not a scholar. What I will mention here, though, is very simple. We talked about some of the most knowledgeable scholars in Islamic finance who've studied Islamic finance for the last 20, 30, 50 years of their life, who've written books on Islamic finance. Not just our Sharia board, independent Sharia boards. They are evaluating guidance and saying this is Sharia compliant. I mean, I think your point.
You understand one thing.
Yes.
For me, it's interesting.
I think your point is more towards the cost.
Sheikh, which county do you live in? Which county?
For you, it is not interest for one reason only.
Sharing of
That
loss.
you share the loss.
Exactly.
There is risk you can lose. So
Yes.
for you personally, as a, let's say a company,
Yes.
it is not riba. Because
Correct.
you are sharing,
The loss.
that's right.
Exactly.
For me, is riba.
Why?
Because I'm paying interest.
No. Interest, again, we go back to the definition, and again, and I'll share some documentation. Look, brother. Interest when you borrow money. But again, I'll give you a simple example. You go and make an investment in the stock market. You invest $10,000. Stock goes up, you make 10% profit. Stock goes down, you make a 6% loss. Is that riba?
No.
Why?
Because
I'm part of the profit, part of the loss. Risk sharing. Exactly what's happening here. We are.
For you, yes. For
But
you, no.
why no? For you, if I share the risk with you, look. My point is, if I'm sharing the risk with you, then your risk is less. Amount of money. I think your point is regarding the amount of money going out of pocket. I think, if the amount of money is the concern, then yes, amount of money that is exchanging hands might end up being exactly the same, but in an Islamically correct way, or a non-Islamically correct way.
I think
we'll move on.
Sheikh, I
Inshallah.
think what we all hope for, inshallah, one day there will be enough funding for all Muslims in America to have houses with absolutely zero interest or profit or anything. Just pay the price of the house over a certain amount of years.
Yeah,
Inshallah, that will
sorry.
be an option one day.
Yeah.
That's everybody's goal.
So you're getting the money like from the financer, right? From
Okay. Yep. Initial.
But where is the main money is coming from?
Main money.
It's the bank, right?
No. I think I know your question, and I'll ask a better question, but I get your point. Where does our initial funding comes from? Like I mentioned, capital guidance from the Middle East. That's where our initial funding comes from. Okay, so what happens is, let's say, sorry, I know you were next. I apologize. Let's say we get an investment of $1 million, and we get the $1 million, and we're doing 10 mortgages, 100,000 each, 100, 100, 100, 100. $1 million is gone. Now to do the 11th mortgage, we now again need funding. So what we do is we sell our shares in these properties to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are not banks, they're government institutions. But when we sell our mortgage, again, listen to my words. When we sell our ownership in this property to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, get liquidity, so we can do mortgage number 11, 12, 13. When we sell our contract to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that is, again, we're not borrowing money from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. We are selling them our ownership in the property to them. Now, every single customer of Guidance Residential, from start till now, and inshallah, alhamdulillah, in the future, always makes their payment to guidanceresidential.com on our website. Every single customer, from day 1 to day 100, because we are in the partnership throughout the homeownership process. No. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac only, and again, we're only selling, we're not borrowing. I want to emphasize this. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry, he's been there.
They buy the contract with the same terms, with the Sharia compliant contract, with the whole profile.
I mentioned the 3 years, 18 law firms. This is the fight that we had to go through to have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac to agree to that same contract. One of the key components, again, I'm going way too deep, but one of the key components that they required was Guidance still stay in the middle to share that loss. They're like, hey, we're not sharing this loss. This is your Islamic contract, you deal with that. So we stay in the middle throughout the contract.
So how does it work if it's not primary residence, if it's like for business, multifamily?
We can do any residential properties, 1 through 4 units. Amja, Sheikh Man al-Qadha, he did a recent training for imams. They approved us for residential and investment properties. Sorry, he's...
Guidance residential operate in some other countries also?
So, interestingly, no, we do not operate as Guidance specifically. The same contract in...
Or as a US citizen, if I want to buy a house in Saudi Arabia or in Pakistan as an investment,
No.
so can you provide finance?
No.
Do you have any sister company in there or those countries?
No, they only have it in the US. What I can tell you is we do not have any affiliation or a partnership or ownership in any other country. However, the same exact model, the exact guidance model is the same one being used by Mizan Bank in Pakistan. Mizan Bank. There's a bank, the same model, by the way. This Islamic financing program is being established in Saudi Arabia. So you will see this same Musharaka contract in Saudi Arabia, in Morocco, in one other African country, I forget. But not through Guidance.
One more question. Guidance Residential is a US-based company, right?
Correct.
So do you provide finance for business also?
No, so our Sharia boards, look, again, I go back to, we do not compromise on Islamic finance, okay? So our Sharia board approved for residential properties only. Commercial, we do not have a commercial product. Yes, please.
When we get a regular mortgage, the interest rate is tax deductible. It's your,
Correct, it is.
yours is also.
Yep, and there is a fatwa from the Sharia board which mentioned that the profit that's being paid, the brother's question was, in a traditional bank, when you pay interest, that interest is tax deductible on your tax returns. And with Guidance, is our profit that you're paying, is that tax deductible? The answer is yes. Our Sharia board has a fatwa on our website which specifically states that the use of the word profit or interest does not make it, Islamic compliance. The changing of word is not the difference here. So similarly, I'll give you an example. Everyone here files a federal 1040 tax return that has the word interest in that form. But because it's not an interest-based contract, right, it doesn't impact it. So the Sharia board said, yes, in the end, a homeowner that was going with Islamic finance should not hurt because of going with Islamic finance. And that's why they approved the using of and deducting of that profit. There was a sister, Islamic. Mm-hmm. Sure. So I'll answer the second question first, the sale price. So the first step, like I mentioned, was the pre-approval, where you will talk to us about how much we can approve you for, what is going to be the monthly payment, are you comfortable with that payment? Once that is done, we will connect you with an agent in the area to help you find a home, the right house for you, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, etc. Once you're connected with the agent will help you make an offer on the house. So let's say the value or the asking price is 500, you make an offer of 450, etc., and then you guys negotiate. And then you will sign an agreement that I'm looking forward to buying this house at an agreed upon price. Now, after that, you will send that contract back to us, and then usually you have 30 days to close on the house and get approved for the mortgage. During that process, we'll send an appraiser, a third-party appraiser, to the property to assess the value of the home. Is it worth this agreed upon price? Now, once that appraisal report comes back, there are obviously multiple things that can happen. It comes in higher than the sale price. That's wonderful. Good, you've made the right investment. It comes in the same price. Okay, that's fine as well. If it comes in lower, you have multiple options. You can cancel the contract. You will talk to an attorney, you will cancel the contract. You can renegotiate the sale price. And lastly, and this is what was happening a lot more last year and 2 years ago, was the value came in lower, but they were still buying the house for the higher price. And they were putting out more money, more down payment to buy that house. Unfortunately, the market was just insane at that point. So that is the usual process. Even if it's lower, we will provide financing up to the value. Our numbers will be based on the value. You, the homeowner, if you still decide to make the purchase, you would have to cover the difference. Please. We are taking the 200K loss. The value. From the 300K, you want to share that. No, understood. So that's a valid question. So, oh, sorry. Aha. Than a traditional bank. Okay. Agreed. Correct. Sure. Understood. Okay, sure. So to answer the first part, sorry, 1 second. There's people leaving when I got there. So to answer the first question part first. So her sister's question was, the mortgage balance is 500,000, and the house sells in foreclosure for 300. Guidance will take the full 300, and we will take the 200K loss. Her question was, why wouldn't we share that 300K with the homeowner? So what we have to also understand is the foreclosure process has happened for multiple reasons, obviously, but one of the main reasons being the homeowner has been unable to make the monthly payment. And during the time that the homeowner was in the property, he was enjoying the property, right? So our sharing of loss has to be limited in that particular case to that difference between the mortgage balance and the value. Look, keep in mind, in foreclosure, we are taking a loss on our principal, not on the profit. We're not discussing our profit at this point. In foreclosure, we are foregoing the profit because there is none, but we are also taking a principal loss. Second thing sister mentioned, her question was regarding pricing. The misconception that guidance or Islamic financing in general is more expensive than a traditional bank. Very simple answer. No, it's not. In traditional banks, there are hundreds and thousands of interest-based banks. In Islamic financing, guidance, like I said, is considered the best from Islamic compliance perspective. And so when you compare us to 100,000 companies, we're going to find you 10 companies that are more expensive than us, and you will be able to find some companies that are less expensive. We are somewhere in the middle. We try to be as competitive, and I want to go on a little bit on a tangent here. I've been with Guidance for 5 years. I have seen our pricing significantly improve every single year. And one of the main reasons for that is as more and more Muslims go with guidance. When you buy through guidance, alhamdulillah, it helps us provide better pricing for the future Muslims. Yes, there is, if you do a quick Google search right now, say mortgage rates today, you will see that our rates on our website are lower than the average mortgage rate today in the market. So we try to be as competitive, as aggressive in our pricing. So we are, because obviously, you know, let's be honest, one of the main concerns that Muslims have sometimes is the cost, right? They want to go with Islamic financing, but the budgetary requirements are stretched thin, and so it limits their options. Our goal is to provide Islamic financing for all Muslims. And so we try to be competitive, and inshallah, as more Muslims go in this program, you will see better pricing, inshallah. Please. No. We recommend, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The two names go on the LLC, right? When you guys are buying the house, you set up an LLC.
We set up an LLC. You and an LLC are buying the house.
So both parties are on this LLC, yes?
No, we set up an LLC that represents us, and you and the LLC are buying the house together.
Us and the LLC.
Correct.
And then when it comes to buying and selling, does that LLC provide or cause any kind of issues to decide to sell the house? Because at that point,
No.
you got the majority.
No, none whatsoever. Because you and the LLC are independent. You're not part of an LLC. So just to be clear, we are not setting up an LLC together and you are part of the LLC. No, we have an LLC and you and the LLC are together buying the house. You and a partner, Guidance is LLC. You and, I'm going to call it Guidance. You and Guidance are buying the house together. And the LLC is there because we are limiting our losses in the property. Partnership is happening here. That is the main reason. This LLC piece, by the way, is the main reason AMJA approved Guidance. Okay? Because we are sharing the loss in the property through the LLC. A bank cannot, I go back to that point I made about banks. Banks' job is to lend money and make money on interest. They do not partner with businesses to buy a house or buy investment properties. That is the investment firm's job. A bank's job is to loan money and make money on interest. And so we, not being a bank, allows us to do that. And that is the main differentiator between Guidance and every other Islamic mortgage company in the market. Because every other Islamic mortgage company in the market is owned by a bank and is opening a Islamic financing window. So they're not able to do this LLC portion or sharing of loss with the homeowner. Correct. The deed, yes. Correct.
Now, does that LLC provide or cause an issue if I want to go ahead and sell?
No, your decision.
And is that on this contract?
Yeah, absolutely. We have our sign-up sheet. I'll share with you the sample contract. I'll show you the specific page. Obviously, it's going to be in legal jargon, legal terms. You can share it with an attorney and review it with them. You have a decision. The sale of the property is your decision. You want to, in the future, you want to rent it out, make any improvements, expand the house, all your decision.
And then you said fixed rate and variable.
Sorry?
Fixed and variable for the property. Both are offered, or is it just fixed?
We only offer the fixed rate option. Yeah.
It's up to me as a partner to, if the going rate in the market currently goes down, it's up to me to
Refinance, absolutely.
Now, can I ask an honest question? Why would you guys want to refinance if that lowers your profit?
So it's very simple. If we don't offer refinance, what will you do? You will go somewhere else and refinance. We will lose that opportunity anyways. So refinance. The market pricing has changed. So obviously, if we do not offer that product, a client will say, okay, why am I paying more for something that's valued less, right? That is how actually you end up in foreclosure, and the value of a product has gone lower. So refinance is offered. Yeah. Please.
Family members, so they're saying the mortgage, they're residents, but now they're paying to
U.S. Bank. Okay, great. Okay. So U.S. Bank is, we hire U.S. Bank. We're not owned by U.S. Bank. We have no affiliation, direct affiliation with U.S. Bank. So Guidance, we have a mortgage process, but we do not have a department to pay the property taxes every month, pay the home insurance on a monthly basis, all those basic customer service requirements for a mortgage. So we hire US Bank. We hire them to provide servicing. Similar to, think of it as, you hire a gardener to cut the grass. You hire someone. So when the statement comes, you can ask your friend, when he receives the statement, he can go on, number one, he can go on our website, guidanceresidential.com, to make his payment. When he sees the statement, it will say something basically, in my statement, it's like, it's guidance logo, guidance information, serviced by US Bank, servicing. Please.
Let's say you're getting the money. You already give me the answer. I just want to clarify.
Sure, sure.
So let's say you are taking $20 million from the main investor.
Yep.
Now you need another $80 million to another 80.
Yep.
So I was thinking before, you take 20 million from your primary investor and you need another 80 million. With other people, other people sell the house or buy the house.
Right.
You're getting from
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. No.
What you are saying, you get this for $20 million.
Correct.
Then we sell to us. Then you need more money than you're selling to this.
Selling your ownership, partnership. Now I have liquidity. Correct. Now my money is back, the 20 million. So look, you are recycling the initial investment. I get $100 million day one, right? I do $100 million worth of mortgages. I don't have any more money. How do we do the next mortgage? Sell these, get the 100 million back.
So you're selling this, right?
Yep.
You're selling this.
Exactly. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, got my $100 million back, I do another 100 million mortgages. Then I do another 100. I'm using the same investment, initial investment.
But still we are equity.
Yes. You know why? The loss sharing. When we sell our mortgages, remember I was talking about the 3 law firms, 3 years with 18 law firms in the beginning? So we required, because of our Musharaka contract, we required Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac to be able to approve and sell that contract to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Okay, that part is done. Now, why is guidance still in the middle? Because of the loss sharing. Traditional banks, when they sell, traditional banks also sell their mortgages to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but they do not have this loss sharing component. So you might have heard of Bank of America, countrywide mortgage in the past, where literally you had a mortgage with company A today, and then 6 months later you had to go to company B to make your payment. That never happens with guidance. Never. Every single customer of guidance from day one till now always makes their payment on our website to our customer service. Please.
Some people, for example, they take, they have 20% down payment, and they get 80% of the money from the hard cash guy, right?
Yeah,
To buy a house.
to buy the house. Right.
But I know some other people, they get all 100%, buy the house, flip the house, so they're not getting anything from the hard cash
Yeah.
guy, right? So which category are you in?
I don't follow.
There's 2 different categories. So for example, he got $100,000.
Yep.
So he's taking another $400,000 from the hard
Hard cash. And buying a property cash.
cash and fix everything, then he sells.
Yep.
He's interested in everything to them. Other guy, there's another guy, he has all $90,000.
Yep. We're in category 1. We're in the first one. We're replacing the hard money lender for him.
So you're replacing the
Hard money lender. Because you only have 20%, we're replacing the financing requirements compared to the hard money lender, providing that through us. If you already have the investment cash, there's no need for us.
So when you sell to Freddie Mac, then it's as a customer.
Let me tell you something about the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. You don't even see it. Homeowner doesn't even see it, doesn't know it. I mean, that knows it because we tell them. We say, hey, by the way. But I was at another masjid presentation, and the brother literally told me, so then why are you talking about Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac? I'm like, it's just for transparency only. So when we sell our mortgage to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I have a mortgage with guidance. You get a letter saying, hey, by the way, your mortgage was sold to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, guidance got liquidity. Your payment will still be made to guidanceresidential.com. Please visit blah, blah, blah. Exactly the same. No changes. That is the 3 years it took to launch this product was to have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac accept and approve this program. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Look, Islamic financing, I've been with guidance for 5 years. It is prevalent. It is a product that, alhamdulillah, is being accepted in the community. It is something, the next generation, inshallah, will accept it, and obviously our generation as well. The importance of Islamic financing is very important. The sharing of laws. One more last point I want to make. Look up this term called ethical financing. Alhamdulillah, Islam is such a beautiful religion that it makes sense and it encompasses the right way of doing things in every aspect of our lives. If you look up this concept of ethical financing is a new term that you will start seeing in maybe 10 years in traditional mortgage companies, traditional banks and stuff, where what it means is does the bank care if you are going to make a profit, make a loss? Do they care about the homeowner or the individual that they're going in business with? Because in the past, they don't care. Their goal was you said something, you wanted it, they approved it. They don't care how you make the payment, what happens to you, foreclosure, bankruptcy, that's your problem. Ethical financing is where the decision before they finance is this ethically correct? It's legal. What they did was legal, but was it ethical? It was unethical. Islamic financing, alhamdulillah, as a religion and as a Sharia, it eliminates those gray areas. Our religion it involves ethics. It's not just about the law. It's about, hey, what is the right thing to do? So anyways. Once we do not, our Sharia board has to approve.
Is there any other company in US which provide business loan, interest-free loan?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. There are certain, like I mentioned, there are other Islamic mortgage companies in the market. They do commercial loans from what I understand, but again, they are owned by a bank or affiliated with a bank itself. So they are able to do those, but our Sharia board has not approved this yet. Once they approve, inshallah. Wa yakum, brother. Jazakallah khair. Thank you to the ICPC community. May Allah bless you all. Inshallah, thank you.